We are delivering today the iPad, the new iMac, the iPod, iPhoto, MacBook Air, iTunes. Revolutionary moment. Your way is wrong. I think you have a responsibility to do really good stuff and get it out there for people to use and let them build on the shoulders of it and keep making better stuff. I do think when people look back on this in 100 years, they're going to see this as a remarkable time in history. The thing that bound us together at Apple, it was the ability to make things that were going to change the world. The market tells us we're making the wrong choices. We listen to the market. We're just people running this company. We're trying to make great products for people. And so we have at least the courage of our convictions to say, we don't think this is part of what makes a great product. We're going to leave it out. Some people are going to not like that. They're going to call us names. It's not going to be in certain companies' vested interests that we do that, but we're going to take the heat because we want to make the best product in the world for customers. And we're going to instead focus our energy on these technologies, which we think are in their ascendancy and we think are going to be the right technologies for customers. And you know what? They're paying us to make those choices. That's what a lot of customers pay us to do, is to try to make the best products we can. And if we succeed, they'll buy them. And if we don't, they won't. And it'll all work itself out. So the contributions that we tried to make embodied values that were not only of technical excellence and innovation, which I think we did certainly our share of, but innovation in a more humanistic way. The things I'm most proud about of Apple are where those two things came together. As an example, in publishing. You know, the Macintosh basically revolutionized publishing and printing. And it was because of that typographic artistry coupled with the technical understanding and excellence to implement that electronically. Those two things coming together where people didn't have to understand arcane computer commands to use the computer. So it was a combination of those two things that I am the most proud of, and it happened on the Apple II, and it happened on the Lisa, although there were other problems with the Lisa that caused it to be a market failure, and then it happened again big time with the Macintosh.
To look at everything as a repetitive process, and to instrument that process, and find out how it's running, and then start to take it apart and re-put it back together in ways that dramatically improve its effectiveness. In a very straightforward way.
You know, I've always felt that death is the greatest invention of life. I'm sure that life evolved without death at first, and found that without death, life didn't work very well, because it didn't make room for the young who didn't know how the world was, 50 years ago, who didn't know how the world was 20 years ago, but who saw it as it is today without any preconceptions, and saw and dreamed how it could be based on that, who were not satisfied based on the accomplishments of the last 30 years, but who were dissatisfied because the current state didn't live up to their ideals. Without death, there would be very little progress. And so one of the things that happens in organizations as well as in people is they settle into ways of looking at the world and become satisfied with those. And the world changes and keeps evolving, and new potential arises, but these people that are settled in don't see it. And that's what gives startup companies their greatest advantage, is the sedentary point of view of large companies.
In my opinion, the largest contribution of much of this quality thinking is to approach these ways of doing things, these processes, scientifically, where there is a theory behind why we do them. There is a description of what we do, and most importantly, there is an opportunity to always question what we do.
Well, as you may know, I was basically fired from Apple when I was 30, and was invited to come back 12 years later. So that was difficult when it happened, but maybe the best thing that ever happened to me. There wouldn't be a Pixar if that hadn't happened. And so, you move on, life goes on. And
there really isn't a penalty for failure either psychologically or economically, in the sense that if you have a good idea and you go out to start your own company, even if you fail, you're generally considered worth more to the company you left because you've gained all this valuable experience in many disciplines.
Life is just always mysterious and surprising, and you never know what's around the next corner. So.
The people that are really good never worry about things like that. The people that are really good want to work with the best people they can find. Hopefully people that are even better than them. You know? I mean, that's my view of things, is if you work with people that aren't as good as you, then you become a country of midgets. If you work with people that are better than you, then you really grow.
There's a platform war going on that you're in. You're a big player in it. Google's a player in it. Facebook's a player in it. Do you see it like that?
No.
Okay.
And I never have. I mean, we never saw ourselves in a platform war with Microsoft, and maybe that's why we lost. But we always saw ourselves as trying to build the best computers we knew how to build. That's always what we were trying to do.
And you never thought about Windows or Microsoft?
Sure, we thought about Windows, but we never thought of ourselves in a platform war. We always thought about how can we build a much better product than them. And I think that's how we still think about it.
You know, I've always considered part of my job was to keep the quality level of people in the organizations I work with very high. I mean, that's what I consider one of the few things I actually, can contribute individually myself versus the team that I work with is to really try to instill in the organization the goal of having only A players. Because in the field that I'm in, like in a lot of fields, the difference between maybe the worst taxi cab driver and the best taxi cab driver to get you across town Manhattan might be 2 to 1. The best one will get you there in 15 minutes, the worst one will get you there in half an hour. Or, the best cook and the worst cook, maybe it's 3 to 1.
Sure.
Pick something like that. Most things in life, the best, post person, the worst post person. In the field that I'm in, in software in particular, the difference between the best person and the worst person is about 100 to 1 or more. The difference between a good software person and a great software person is probably 50 to 1, 25 to 50 to 1. Huge dynamic range. And therefore, I have found, and not just in software, but in almost everything I've done, it really pays to go after the best people in the world. It's painful. It's very painful when you have some people that are not the best people in the world, and you have to get rid of them. But I found that my job has sometimes been exactly that, to get rid of some of the people that didn't measure up. And I've always tried to do it in a humane way, but nonetheless, it has to be done, and it's not ever fun.
My model of business is the Beatles. They were 4 very talented guys who kept each other's kind of negative tendencies in check. They balanced each other, and the sum was greater than the total was greater than the sum of the parts. And that's how I see business. Great things in business are never done by one person. They're done by a team of people, and we've got that here at Pixar, and we've got that at Apple as well. And so that's what lets me do this. Well, with the Beatles, when they were together, they did truly brilliant, innovative work. And when they split up, they did good work, but it was never the same. And I see business that way too. It's really always a team.
Well, in our business, one person can't do anything anymore, but you create a team of people around you, and you have a responsibility of integrity of the work to that team. Everybody does, and you try to turn out the best work you can.
One of the keys to Apple is Apple's an incredibly collaborative company. And so, you know how many committees we have at Apple?
No.
0. We have no committees.
No committees.
We are organized like a startup. One person's in charge of iPhone OS software. One person's in charge of Mac hardware. One person's in charge of iPhone hardware engineering. Another person's in charge of worldwide marketing. Another person's in charge of operations. We're organized like a startup. We're the biggest startup on the planet. And we all meet for 3 hours once a week, and we talk about everything we're doing. the whole business. And there's tremendous teamwork at the top of the company, which filters down to tremendous teamwork throughout the company. And teamwork is dependent on trusting the other folks to come through with their part without watching them all the time, but trusting that they're going to come through with their parts. And that's what we do really well. And we're great at figuring out how to divide things up into these great teams that we have and all work on the same thing, touch bases frequently, and bring it all together into a product. We do that really well. And so what I do all day is meet with teams of people and work on ideas and solve problems to make new products, to make new marketing programs, whatever it is.
And are people willing to tell you you're wrong?
Yeah.
I mean, other than snarky journalists. I mean, people that work for you.
No, we have wonderful arguments.
And do you win them all? Or?
Oh, no, I wish I did. No, see, you can't. If you want to hire great people and have them stay working for you, you have to let them make a lot of decisions, and you have to be run by ideas, not hierarchy. The best ideas have to win.
So,
otherwise, good people don't stay.
I've been very lucky in meeting incredibly talented people and hanging out with them. And so that's been my greatest strength.
And so we had a lot of great ideas when we started, but what I've always felt that a team of people doing something they really believe in is like when I was a young kid, there was a widowed man that lived up the street. And he was in his 80s. He's a little scary looking. And I got to know him a little bit. I think he might have paid me to mow his lawn or something. And one day he said, "Come on into my garage, I want to show you something." And he pulled out this dusty old rock tumbler. And it was a motor and a coffee can and a little band between them. And he said, "Come on with me." We went out to the back and we got some rocks, some regular old ugly rocks. And we put them in the can with a little bit of liquid and a little bit of grit powder. And we closed the can up and he turned this motor on. He said, "Come back tomorrow." And his can was making a racket as the stones went around. And I came back the next day and we opened the can and we took out these amazingly beautiful polished rocks. The same common stones that had gone in through rubbing against each other like this, creating a little bit of friction, creating a little bit of noise, had come out these beautiful polished rocks. And that's always been, in my mind, my metaphor for a team working really hard on something they're passionate about, is that it's through the team, through that group of incredibly talented people, bumping up against each other, having arguments, having fights sometimes, making some noise, and working together, they polish each other, and they polish the ideas, and what comes out are these really beautiful stones.